and welcome to the Environment This Week series section of Drishti IAS. I'm Aisha, and in today's episode we will be covering topics which are important from General Studies paper 3, that is environment and ecology. So basically the idea that we will be following is that we have taken 4 news from the current affairs and then we will be seeing the static portion of those news. So let's begin. And the 4 topics that we have taken today are new collective quantified goal on climate finance with regard to COP29, then world's largest coral that has been found recently, reduction in population of African elephants, and then FFNPT, fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. And in the end we will be covering 4 MCQ with regard to these 4 topics. So before starting, let me give you an information that Drishti IAS Mukherjee Nagar classes has now been shifted to Noida. So the new UPSC hub is now Noida. And the nearest metro station, if you are traveling by metro, then it is Noida Sector 15 metro station. And the exact address is C171/2 Block A Sector 15 Noida, Uttar Pradesh. And the Hindi medium batches are starting from 9th of December and the English medium batches are starting from 12th of December. If you have any query with regard to the location of our new center, then give us a call at 9311406440. And if you want to know about the exact location, then link is provided in the description box. Plus, if you want a call back from Drishti IAS, then the form is also given in the description box. So you can fill out the form and we will call you back. So let's begin now. And the first topic is new collective quantified goal on climate finance, that is NCQG, new collective quantified goal. So as of now, the COP29 has been going on since 11th to 22nd of November. So recently the COP29 has ended on 22nd of November. Now the COP29, that is the Conference of Parties 29, the venue was Baku, Azerbaijan, and basically the highest authorities of the governments have come from different countries to decide on few of the basic points with regard to how the climate change or the effects of the climate change can be reduced. And one of the main point of discussion in COP29 was with regard to the climate finance. When we talk about the word climate finance, it means that we need to talk about the finances which the developed countries will provide for the developing and the least developed countries, because it is the developed country who has contributed or who have been contributing the highest chunk with regard to the temperature increase. Since the time of industrialization process, the developed countries like, for example, the European Union, US, Russia, China, India, these are the countries who has contributed more with regard to the climate change, while the repercussions or the consequences of this change in the climate change are also being borne by the countries who have not contributed that much to the climate change, that is the developing and the least developed countries and also the island nations. So with regard to the climate finance, a term was very much in news, and that is the NCQG, new collective quantified goal. So the NCQG has emerged as a crucial initiative aimed at mobilizing resources for developing countries to combat climate change, what we just discussed. Then it is a new annual financial target. Financial target means that a consensus will be made on a particular amount, that this much amount will be provided by the developed nation for the developing nation to deal with the climate change. Then is a new annual financial target that developed countries must meet from 2025 onward. Now this date is important, 2025 onward. A new goal need to be set, because till the time of 2025, the goal which has been set was $100 billion to provide climate finance to developing countries and replace the previous commitment of USD 100 billion per year. And this pledge of providing 100 billion per year has not been fulfilled by the developed countries. And this pledge was taken in the year 2009. Now let us talk about the importance of NCQG. So first of all, empower developing countries. Now, the developing countries and the least developed countries are the countries who do not possess a particular technology or science or research or development, and they do not have the required scientific knowledge, or you can say they do not also have the required finances that they can work towards developing new technologies so that they can also be on the path of becoming net zero or reducing its climate emissions, or you can say carbon emissions. And that is why the fund or the finances is important from the developed countries to be provided to the developing countries so that the developing countries can become empowered. Next is accelerate climate action. Now, climate change mitigation and adaptation require significant investments. And from where the investment will come? This investment will come from the developed countries. Developed countries like, for example, European Union, US, Russia, China, India. So these are the countries which need to provide the investment for the mitigation and adaptation for climate change to the developing countries. Unlock the necessary fund for developing countries to implement ambitious climate action plans aligned with the Paris Agreement's goal. But that goal of 100 billion US dollars has also not been met, even though the fund was provided by the developed countries, but not exactly the amount which was prescribed. And that is why there is a need for a new amount to be decided or to agree upon. Then promote a just transition. It means support a just transition to a low carbon and climate resilient economy. And how this low carbon and climate resilient economy will come? It will come when every country will work towards its national determined contributions. Every country will work toward moving towards the net zero carbon emissions. It is when every country will try to make the carbon sinks or the carbon sequestration technologies for themselves so that the net zero concept can apply. Then creating new jobs and opportunities while protecting vulnerable communities. Now, vulnerable communities is that the island nations are suffering the most because of the climate change. So protecting these island nations are becoming difficult. Then boost global cooperation. So fulfilling the NCQG necessitates collaboration between developed and developing countries. This fosters international cooperation and strengthens the global response to climate change. So these are the few points. Now global cooperation is important because till the time all the world or the global developed countries will not come together and will not agree upon, then till that time a new finance goal or a new finance target will not be set up, and it has been projected that the new finance target will go into trillions. It will go into trillions of dollars. Till now, a conclusion or a particular decision has not been taken. But if that will be taken, we will also be updating you on that part. Now comes the second point, and that is the largest coral reef, and it has been found in the Solomon Islands. Now, where are the Solomon Islands located? So the Solomon Islands are located in the Pacific Ocean, the West Pacific Ocean, close to Australia. So this is Australia, and these are the Solomon Islands. Solomon Islands are a chain of islands. So basically there are two chains of island, and there are more than thousands of islands. So this is Australia. Australia's northeast is where the Solomon Island is located in the Pacific Ocean. So the world's largest coral colony in the Solomon Islands has been identified. Now about the Solomon Islands. So there are two parallel chains of volcanic islands and small coral atolls in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, and it consists of nearly 1000 islands, and the country is mainly mountainous and covered in forest, although it has some extensive plains also, but it is majorly a mountainous country. Then it was once under British, and the Solomon Island achieved independence in the year 1978. Capital is Honiara, and the ethnic groups are Melanesian, which are around 93%, and Polynesian, which are around 4%. Then languages, the official language is English, and the parliamentary structure is that they have a parliamentary democracy and they come under Commonwealth. It means that they were once the British colony, as we just studied. Now, what are corals? Because the world's largest coral colony has been found, so what becomes important to know is what are corals. So, corals are sessile animals. Now, sessile animals means that they are immobile, they are immovable, they are fixed at one place. So, they are sessile animals that attach permanently to the ocean floor. Attach permanently to the ocean floor means that they are immobile. Then the kind of symbiosis they have, so corals shares a mutualistic relationship. Now mutualistic relationship means positive. It means that the two entities which are present together, both are benefiting from one another. It means if this is one, this is second, both are combined together, so both are benefiting. It is not that any of them is having loss, both are benefiting from each other. So that is why they are called mutualistic relationship. With algae, that is known as zooxanthellae, and which provides nutrients through photosynthesis. So there is an algae and there is an polyp. So the algae is zooxanthellae, and zooxanthellae provide the color to the polyp or the outside structure, and it is the zooxanthellae with the algae which also do the process of photosynthesis, and it also provide nutrients and food. While the outer structure, that is the polyp, it is a hard structure. It is a hard structure and it provides a particular structure to the coral. Now if we talk about the structure, then there is polyp and there is skeleton. So if we talk about polyp, then there are individual coral animals that form large colonies. And then if we talk about skeleton, so there are hard coral, they create reefs with limestone skeleton. So the outer body, which you will see many a time in white in color, because they are usually colorless, and the color provided by them is because of the algae zooxanthellae, and they are made up of limestone and they are hard in nature, providing habitats for marine life. Now if we talk about the types of corals, then there are two types of corals, that is hard coral and soft coral. Hard corals are coral which are used in reef building, and soft corals are non-reef building. Then comes the ecological role, because coral are very useful for the, or you can say are very important for the marine ecosystem. So the ecological role is it serves as the rainforest of the sea, because the quantity or the amount in which they are present is very high, and they cover a lot of area in the ocean. And the largest coral, if you will talk about, then you will find it in the Great Barrier Reef, Australia. Then they serve as a rainforest of the sea, home to thousands of marine species, and also play a crucial role in marine biodiversity and shoreline protection. And from India's perspective, we talk about, then the corals can be found in Andaman and Nicobar, corals can be found in Lakshadweep, corals can be found in, you can say, Gujarat coastline. So there are many different places where corals are found. The next point is, or the next topic is, reduction in the population of African elephants. When we say African elephants, the name itself is suggesting that they are present in the African continent. So there are basically two types of elephants, African elephants and the Asian elephants. Asian elephants are elephants which are present in India, while African elephants are elephants which are present in the African continent. So it has been projected that the number of population of the African elephants, or the number of African elephants, are on a decline. So the new study talks about that 52 years have revealed a dramatic decline in the African elephants population, with savanna elephants experiencing a 70% decrease and forest elephants suffering a 90% decline. So savanna elephants 70% decline and forest elephants around 90% decline. Now let us talk about elephants. So elephants are large animals, they are flagship animals, they are umbrella elephants, animals, and they are also known as the keystone animals, because the species are, they represent a particular biodiversity, and they are the main animals wherever they go, or they run a proper, on the basis of them a proper food chain or a food web runs. Then the African elephant, if we talk about, then they are large land animals native to sub-Saharan Africa. And if we talk about the two species, then there is African bush elephant and African forest elephant. So they are mainly found in savannas, forest, grasslands, arid region, rainforest, and woodlands like the Mopane and the Miombo. Because the African continent, they basically have a variety of land area, you can say. See, the upper area, if you will see the North Africa, if you will see, then they are arid region. Then you have the semi-arid region. Then also you will find the savanna grasslands and also the grasslands. And if we talk about the majority of the places or the area where the elephants are found in the African continent, so that is around the country Botswana. Now the conservation status of the African elephant, so that is African bush elephant, the conservation status is endangered, IUCN status. Then the African forest elephant, IUCN status is critically endangered. And if we talk about the CITES status, then they come under Appendix 1. So basically you can say that they are having the highest degree of protection. Then the behavior and production, so they live in family units which are led by adult females. So African elephants are also led by adult females, and Asian elephants are also led by adult females. So the elephant herds are basically led by a female, and African elephants are bigger in size as compared to the Asian elephants. They also have social bonds, and they also have one of the lowest sleeping time among animals. Then the elephants have a long gestation period of around 2 years. And if we talk about the threat to the population of the African elephant, so there are few of the reasons can be. First is poaching, and second is the habitat loss. So poaching for the ivory trade, for their tusk. So elephants have a huge tusk, and there in the international market there is huge demand for the ivory, and the products which are made from the ivory are very, very expensive. So when the trade takes place in their products, the trade is expensive in nature. So the regions with high levels of poverty and corruption are more likely to have higher poaching rates. And in Africa, and specifically if we talk about this region of Middle Africa and the Middle Southern Africa, and Africa is a continent as of now which is going through so much of political instability, and civil war also goes there. So there is a lot of instability, and the poverty and hunger problem is also rising there. So the poaching rates are also going up. Then this suggests that helping communities develop sustainable livelihoods could reduce the poaching problem. Then comes the next point, and that is the habitat loss. So it increases human population and conversion of land for agriculture and development. Because of the few of the point is industrialization. Second can be urbanization. Third can be more land for farming. Then also more land for, you can say, the government use, or for more land for mining purposes. So basically things comes under industrialization and the process of urbanization. Then comes the next topic, and that is FFNPT. It talks about the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. So basically the Non-Proliferation Treaty is used with regard to the nuclear weapons, and the NPT, that is the Non-Proliferation Treaty, was started with the aim that because the nuclear weapons or the atomic or the atom bombs, they were so much of danger to the humankind, and the vast quantity of destruction or the vast volume of destruction or the devastation it can cause to the society and the livelihood of people. So the use and the export of the technology of the nuclear weapons should be restricted. And that is why the non-proliferation treaty, that the overall use and the overall making of the nuclear weapons must not increase, because the world must be living peacefully and in coexistence, peaceful coexistence with each other. But as of now, in today's time, the problem that the world is facing is climate change, and the problem of climate change is with regard to the use or the increased use, or you can say the increasing use of the fossil fuels. So to stop, as of now, the need of the hour is to stop or to reduce or to minimize or to mitigate the use of fossil fuels. So to mitigate or minimize the use of fossil fuels, our nuclear weapon like treaty NPT has been talked about, or the idea has been initiated with regard to the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. So if the mounting climate threats has drawn the attention of the governments and also the activists to move towards the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, and this is an ambitious initiative which is called fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, and this talks about capping and regulating fossil fuels with the same speed and binding commitment that has harnessed nuclear arms. So the way the control on the nuclear arms or the nuclear weapon trade was reduced and mitigated, so the same way the fossil fuel reduction, use of reduction or the mitigation also needs to be done in the same manner. Then the coalition of government, civil society organizations, indigenous groups, academics and activists, they are also rooting for the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. Then phase out fossil fuels and move towards renewable energy, even though it will take time and the shift will be slow and gradual, but the shift the shift which will be slow and gradual also needs to start in the earlier phase. So the phase out of fossil fuel, even though it will take time, it needs to start. Enable dependent economies to transition towards renewable energy like solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, and guarantee a just transition for all. Just transition for all, it means a smooth transition, a reliable transition. Now, the treaty operates on three primary pillars, and the three primary pillars of the FFNPT are: first is the non-proliferation. It means that halt the development of new fossil fuel projects, because if the stop or the mitigation will take place, then the further enhancement will not take place. Second pillar is the fair phase out. So, controlled elimination of existing fossil fuel supply, vegetate towards equity so that both are more capable and historically responsible nation transition at a relatively faster pace. Now, if we talk about India, India is a country which is completely dependent on the import of the fossil fuels. Now, when a country does not have its own domestic production and is dependent very much on the import of the fossil fuels, so for a country of that magnitude like India, which has so much of population, the country is very populous, it becomes difficult to develop strategies which can move towards the non-proliferation of fossil fuels. And that is why the nationally determined contribution, that is the NDC, which every single country develops for itself, the aims and the goals which every country develops for itself, so that they can move from fossil fuels towards the renewable energy. But this will take time, and NDCs are targets for 5 years for every single country. Then the third pillar is just transition. So the rapid energy transition to full-scale deployment of renewables and restructuring economies of fossil fuels. So no one community or country is left behind in this transition. It means that it should not be that the developed countries is able to make the transition from fossil fuel to the renewables and the other developing and the least developed countries are not being able to do this. No, the world must move together. The world must move collectively. It means that if developed nations are transitioning from fossil fuel to renewable energy, then other countries or the rest of the world must also be able to do that. And that is why the process will be called as a just and a fair transition. Then significance of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty lies in its comprehensive approach and aims to address the climate crisis more robustly than the current framework. And few of the points are holistic environmental impact. So unlike the Paris Agreement, which does not explicitly refers fossil fuel, the FFNPT directly targets the source of the most significant greenhouse gases. So this basically comes in the form of the fossil fuels like coal, and also the greenhouse gases emission must be decreased or reduced. Then binding legal framework, even though the framework has not been made legal, but the activists are rooting for that the framework must be made legal so that the countries are bound to make a fair transition and also reduce down its use of fossil fuels. Then equity and justice. Equity and justice will go in the direction that every single country must be having the same criteria and the same opportunities to move from fossil fuels towards the renewables. So this was about the 4 topics that we discussed, and on the basis of those 4 topics, now we will be discussing 4 MCQs. And what you people will do, you people will give me the answer in the comment section. So how are you going to do? You will write question number 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then write the answers in front of them and will give me the answer in the comment section. So let's begin. The first question talks about what is the primary objective of NCQG, New Collective Quantified Goal. First, regulate emissions from developed countries. Second, setting a new financial target to support developing countries' climate action after 2025. Third, enforcing strict rules on fossil fuel use. Or fourth, creating a global carbon tax. This was first question. Now second question. Recently, near which island has the largest standalone coral been discovered? So that is Andaman and Nicobar, Tuvalu, Solomon Island or Vanuatu. Third question. According to a recent study, what is or are the reasons for the serious decline in the population of African elephants? Illegal hunting, climate change, habitat loss, or all of the above. Now moving on to the last question. Which of the following is or are included in the 3 pillars of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty Initiative? First is non-proliferation, second is fair phase out, third is equitable transition, and fourth is the all of the above. And I am sure you will be able to answer all 4 questions because we have discussed all 4 questions in the video. So give me the answer in the comment section. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.